want to say if those fields come out of commission or they change, that's something that we're also going to need to reflect in our inventory. So.
And I think that was one of the actions this council took, was to include the relocation of those fields into the Parks Master Plan at the last meeting. My next question, obviously, clearly the city of Floresville cannot instantly implement the 10-year Parks Plan. Will your plan have some phasing timelines in this to say what we can do in the short term, what we can do in the midterm, and what we should be doing in the long term?
It will. Typically, we divide it up into a short term being a 1 to 2 year horizon, 3 to 5, and then a 5 to 10, because normally we can give broad general items for the 5 to 10 year category, but certainly a lot of things change over a 5-year period. It will give recommendations. I'm also a big believer, and our team is a big believer in making some of those recommendations low-hanging fruit that are attainable. One of the things that we try to do is that I mentioned the 304 respondents. Sometimes we get comments. We complete a survey, but nothing happens. Why should we do a survey? And so we're very cognizant that, especially with the comments with the maintenance, that people want action. And so our part of that, our last item with the implementation plan, will identify different items. Some of them are as simple as replacing grills that are rusted out at City River Park. It could be a $300 grill might be one of those action items. Some of them are a lot more robust than that. But yes, we'll be looking at items for the council to implement, for city staff to move forward with.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Council, any other questions?
So, what is our next step?
Our next step will probably be one of the toughest in regards to our design team and EDC, and that's the implementation plan. We're just about done. Over the next month, we'll be done with the guidelines, the acreage guidelines, the facility-based guidelines. And so really it's going to be, okay, what is that implementation plan that makes sense, particularly with the economic environment of the city that we move forward with. In regards to us coming back to you, we're looking to come back in front of council if EDC approves the direction of our plan after a draft format to you for approval of that master plan. But again, that's projected to be April as far as our time schedule right now.
Madam Mayor, I think we need to involve the 4A Corporation, because here we are, we're talking about building a park, but we're going to build it on their property, and I bet nobody has discussed it with the 4A at all at this time. Do you know if we have?
Well, we wanted to bring the project plan to you as it's developing going forward, but the 4A is aware, the 4A member in the audience, the 4A board is aware of the activity that's been going on, but we wanted to bring the plan first to the city council, and then once the plan is formulated a little bit more, then we can take it to 4A. So we wanted to have you have any comments, is this going in the right direction, so that the consultant can take back whatever feedback that you have to the EDC, and I believe Mr. Baker is in the audience as well, to make sure that they are going in the right direction as this plan goes forward. And we plan to take this to not only the 4A, but the Park Foundation and other entities that are interested in parks. Council, any other discussion? All right. The audience can have comments, 1-minute comments, and they'll come up to the podium, but it's not a Q&A.
My son Jeremy Donahoe was instrumental in helping getting the skate park built to decriminalize skateboarding in town. I can't tell you how many times I drove 10 children home who were doing nothing more than skating, a physical activity, and taken down to jail as children for skateboarding. Does this include the skateboard park?
It's not a Q&A, sir.
Okay.
It's only comments. Okay.
Well, I noticed that it was in disarray, and it's the smallest of the bunch, and I think as a 21-year-old who's passed on the higher things of God, that I'd like to see it. And not just baseball, we help decriminalize skateboarding in town, so Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the vendors would appreciate that
Thank you
too.
so much.
I'll comment on your comments. One, the Parks Master Plan includes all city parks, to include our skate park. And Mr. Doug Jones, if he's here, who's the president of our Parks Foundation, has done a great deal of work on our skate park and the entire Parks Foundation, and they're to be commended for the work they've done specifically on that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know you said it's not a Q&A, again, of course not, but it's tough to see back there, but I didn't hear coordination with the schools. I don't know, I throwing a recommendation out if it's not a Q&A. As an ex-scoutmaster, I used to get an awful lot done by coordinating with principals. It seems to me a lot of these ball fields will be used during when the school's out of session. A lot of folks here pay taxes to the schools. I think in the short term, there could be some benefit to fill in any short-term gaps by coordinating with the schools to see if we can use them during their off hours.
Thank you.
And I'll add to your comment, Mr. Carter. Clearly, M&S Engineering showed the usage of the numbers, the populations that the city parks serve. And it is more than just the citizens of the city of Floresville. It includes a number of county, and as a matter of fact, they even said they're going to be using the school demographics to judge this. As we go forward with the Parks Master Plan, we need to partner with the schools and the county and any other large groups of people that are using our facilities, and not just build it on the city's dime and the city's taxpayers' dimes for everybody to be using.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I just want to clarify something that Mr. Holly just said. Just so that people know that there's no 4-foot holes out there in the baseball fields, behind these baseball fields, which the city manager already put a fence out there. But there's no 4-foot holes out there where kids are going to fall in there and it gets swollen by the sand, whatever. There's not, Mr. Holly. I already went and walked that place. It needs a lot of maintenance, but there's no 4 holes back in the baseball field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robles. Any other comments? All right, thank you. The next presentation is the role of the city council as it relates to the will of the people. I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Church. The next item is the role of the city council as it relates to the will of the people and the city charter of the city of Floresville. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I get started, of the people in the room, if I could just kind of get a show of hands, how many people reside in the city or shop in our city or are provided utilities by our city utility or Phelps, okay, or go to our schools? Okay, because I heard a comment as the meeting was getting started that you were all out of towners. I don't think so. And I believe that the actions of this city council affect everybody in our community. That it affects those county residents that are provided utilities by Phelps, which this city is the major owner of. Those residents who shop in our town and pay sales tax, those residents of our community that have visitors stay in our hotels, okay, because they've come to visit. So the actions of the city council affect everybody. But I would note how many times the word citizen or the people is cited in the charter. And I did a quick little search, and the first 2 pieces really state a lot. The first sentence in section 3.09, meeting of the city council, says the city council shall hold 2 regular meetings in each month if necessary, at a time to be fixed by it for such regular meetings, and hold as many additional meetings during the month as may be necessary for the transaction of the business of the city and its citizens. The next time that the word citizen is used is under rules of procedure. And we just listened to the process for that, where individual citizens will be granted 1 minute of time for input on the subject of any and all consideration and action items as they come up on the council agenda prior to the council vote. No prior sign-up by citizens will be required for their input on agenda items. Then we listen to Mr. Carter read some of the words of our Declaration of Independence on the responsibility of government to the governed. I think this council has a distinct responsibility to its citizens and to the will of the people. The charter gives us, as citizens, the right to petition for recall, the right to petition for referendum, and the right to petition for initiative. Okay? That is the responsibility of the people. It is the responsibility of the council to respond to those citizens. Thank you.
The next item is the role of the mayor in directing police actions in the city of Floresville. Councilman Miller.
Counselor, I'm going to ask you to help me out a little bit here. As I read the city charter, okay, the mayor shall be the head of government for ceremonial purposes. The mayor shall be the head of government in the time of war, and the mayor shall break a tie vote. And then the next sentence is the mayor shall have no administrative duties. However, on Friday evening, the police chief sent an officer to former Councilman Eric Rodriguez's home to issue a criminal trespass warrant. And he was informed that this was at the order of the mayor. And then on Saturday, after Kim's TV ran a video of Mr. Rodriguez being ejected from the meeting at 6 o'clock, an off-duty police officer was dispatched not by the sheriff's office or by the police department, but by the mayor to the home of Eric Rodriguez to say that she was verbally withdrawing her complaint. And then on Tuesday, another officer in uniform was dispatched to his home to deliver a copy of a letter at the order of the mayor. Now, as I understand the city charter, the police chief works for the city manager, and that the city council should have no authority in dictating the actions of any city employee.
That is correct.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
That is correct.
So we have a dilemma here. Do we have a police chief that doesn't understand his job and who he reports to? I'm concerned about that, city manager. I'll say that I, as a council member, am concerned about that. And two, I'm going to echo what Mr. Rodriguez said when he got up to the citizens' comment. I do believe that the mayor does owe him an apology.
And Councilman, if I can clarify on here, because it does say the role of the mayor in directing police actions. During the time of a meeting, per the Attorney General, the mayor, if there is a disruption, the mayor can advise the police to escort an individual from the chambers, but that authority does end with that meeting.
And as I have stated a number of times, the mayor is the presiding officer of this council in its meetings and sets the tone for the meeting. And if somebody is disruptive of the meeting and interfering with how business is being done, the mayor has every right to have that person escorted from this room. But the mayor does not have the right to escort somebody from the room because she doesn't like the questions that that person is asking. Furthermore, the mayor does not have the right to escort somebody from the meeting, because she doesn't like the answers that those questions are gonna give.
The next item is also Mr. Miller, should the report from police chief as the authority of the mayor or police chief to order the issuance of criminal trespass warnings to citizens for public facilities such as City Hall.
Again, counsel, I'm gonna ask you this question, okay? As I understand process, and I'm not a lawyer, but I can't read the code. This building, City Hall, is owned by these people. And in order to issue a criminal trespass warning, that should be the owner of the property. Correct. Okay, or the CEO of the facility, in this case, our city manager.
Correct.
Okay, so how can we have our police department, at the order of the mayor, issue a criminal trespass warning?
That's not right.
And that was addressed, and I believe that is part of the reason why it was withdrawn, because the authority was not present.
Oh, but the letter didn't say that. Okay. Okay. So clearly the mayor nor the police department, just for the record, have the authority to ban citizens from City Hall.
No, and only a judge could issue a restraining order that would permanently ban somebody from the public.
We have that on the record and in the minutes. Thank you.
The next item, E, report from police chief in the role of off-duty police officers. Mr. Miller.
I hope our police chief's here so we can get some answers to these questions, specifically on how off-duty officers were sent to the home of Mr. Rodriguez at the request of the mayor.
To answer your question, Councilman Miller, quote, I'll read it verbatim out of the Police Policy Operating Procedure Manual. Attention to duty. Members always subject to duty. Although certain hours are allotted for the performance of duty, members are held to be always on duty. They shall at all times respond to the lawful orders of a superior officer and to the call of citizens in need of police assistance. The fact that they may be technically off-duty shall not relieve them from the responsibility of taking prompt and proper police action in any matter coming to their attention.
Okay, Chief, I understand that. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. But specifically on Saturday, as I understand it, and from the letter that the mayor wrote to you, the mayor ordered an off-duty police officer to go to Mr. Rodriguez's home.
The mayor did not order anyone to go to his home. We took her call as we would have taken any other citizen in this room. After taking her statement by phone, we felt that a criminal trespass warning was prompt. She felt intimidated. She felt Did I disrupt any of y'all? We were talking?
Please, quiet.
So that was handled.
That was on Friday, Chief. That was on Friday, Chief, and I saw that report. But on Saturday, okay,
Friday, the initial officer, which was Sergeant King, took the call. Monday morning, I believe it was Monday, or Saturday rather, the mayor called me and said if Sergeant King had gotten back with me, and I said yes. He took a report. We will look into it Monday, I believe. Monday morning, or Tuesday rather, I'm getting my days mixed up. I believe it was Tuesday. I contacted Sergeant Fowler, who and then proceeded to take the statement from his from the mayor, and then from there, we acted accordingly.
Now, I'm talking specifically about Saturday, and I read the letter from the mayor to you, and I'm trying to pull it up on my computer, I'm having a little bit of a challenge here. But the mayor states that she was confirming the conversation that she had with Officer Fowler on Saturday that asked her to go to the home of Mr. Rodriguez. That's specifically what I'm talking about. You know, we talk about normal chain of command, Chief, you know, from any citizen. I recall a meeting here where I asked a police officer here to take a report, and I was told I had to call dispatch. Okay,
And that was-
but
and
this
that
didn't
was
happen
taken
on
care of by our
Saturday.
city manager.
That didn't happen on
So
Saturday.
we did that.
Pardon me?
I said that was taken care of by our city manager in reference to when you requested an officer here.
Okay, but on Saturday, the mayor just calls an off-duty officer to get her to go deliver a message? That's what the letter reads.
May I read the letter, please?
Please do.
Thank you. Dear Chief, I am hereby confirming my Saturday instructions to Sergeant Daria Fowler concerning my verbal withdrawal of the Thursday night, February the 4th complaint that I filed following the city council meeting. At the end of the council meeting, Mr. Rodriguez was given the opportunity to ask a question. However, he asked a question 3 to 4 times and was given an answer each time by the city attorney. Mr. Rodriguez was not satisfied with the answers he received, and he refused directions from me to cease his repetitive questions. He was then removed. As a result, I filed a complaint. In the interest of bringing harmony to our city and in the interest of moving forward with appropriate civil public dialogue to benefit our city, I issued the verbal warning of my complaint on Saturday. This will confirm that withdrawal. Hopefully, we can get past this and move on. Please furnish a copy of this request to your staff, and I ask that Sergeant Fowler deliver a copy to Mr. Rodriguez as she indicated on Saturday. She
Thank you.
indicated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And your very first sentence in there, or second sentence, is your instructions to Sergeant Fowler. This is my point, Chief. The mayor does not have the authority, as confirmed in our earlier discussions, to issue any orders to the police department. So why is that happening?
As I said earlier, it wasn't an order we were issued. We received a call from a complainant, the mayor, and we acted accordingly.
An off-duty officer was called by the mayor on Saturday. Not through dispatch, not an off-duty officer. And we send this officer, not with anything in writing, not with, like he was served on Friday, with an on-duty officer in a police car, in uniform, with the gun on his side, in front of his children, issued this criminal citation or trespass warrant.
It's a warning.
Okay, I corrected myself, Madam Mayor. But then on Saturday, an off-duty officer, at the instruction of the mayor, goes to his house, out of uniform, in a personal vehicle, and says the mayor said she's withdrawing this. I don't find that equitable, and I don't find that to be procedurally correct, and I'll stop.
May-
I don't see anything wrong with that, Jim.
Let me
He
say
was-
something, that Mr. Rodriguez asked for a letter. He asked Sergeant Fowler for a letter. So she said she would try to get one, and that's the reason I
So
responded
there's
to
a
the
reason it
letter.
was delivered then.
Yes.
Okay.
She offered to, it was delivered by her. I delivered them to City Hall, and then they were delivered from there.
Point of order.
Yes. Madam Mayor, may I ask for the opinion of our city manager, who is the chief executive officer of the city?
Yes, sir.
Your thoughts, please?
Well, when the chief of police came to me on Friday to explain that the mayor had requested a complaint, I did refer him to the attorney. I said that there may be some issues with that banning someone, and to refer him to the attorney. The things that may have transpired on Saturday, I was not involved and or included in any phone calls, and I did not give any instructions to staff and or the chief, other than that he needed to request to make sure, proceeding going forward, that was on legal grounds, and he said he would be meeting with the attorney on Friday.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Mr. Have you been present where there has been disruptive behavior, ethnic slurs, obscenities, profanity being made here at City Hall? Have you heard that?
I can't speak to any slurs. I know that there have been some people who've been asked to leave. They may have been considered rude, an insult, but not necessarily an assault. But I did not recommend that he actually serve anyone with anything in reference to not being banned from the city of Floresville.
No, ma'am, that's not what I asked, but have you, you're the unbiased one, you're not taking any sides. Have you heard those comments here?
I can't speak to racial slurs because I have heard that. I've heard back and forth. I know people have angry comments to make. I know some people are very upset and maybe have spoken loudly or not necessarily like you speak in church. However, I did not see any obsessiveness to be having anybody rejected or ejected from the meeting. We just ask people to calm down if they continue to move, but no, sir, I cannot.
Thank you.
We'll go on to the next item. Report from police chief and the role of police officers conducting code compliance in game rooms in Wilson County. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, this one clearly bothers me. I received a couple of phone calls this week that a city police officer in uniform, in a city vehicle, under the guise of code compliance, inspected game rooms outside the city limits. I did not know our officers, other than one interlocal agreement for a single officer, had any authority outside the limits of the city of Floresville. And certainly, the ordinance that we passed doesn't affect any game room outside the city limits. Why are our officers conducting code compliance inspections outside the city limits?
Lieutenant Evans with the Floresville Police Department.
Thank you.
Council, thank you for having me. Mayor, thank you. City Manager, thank you. As the request or the question involves an ongoing investigation, we have no information to provide you at this time. If you would like to ask me in close quarters or one-on-one, I'd be happy to respond, but it would be inappropriate to address that in an open forum.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council,
Next up.
no, I'm not done with this item. Does it require, as I understand the law, and again, I said I'm not a lawyer, that sort of thing, and I'm certainly not a peace officer, and independent of the specifics of the question, let's get kind of general here, about the authority of police officers outside the city limits.
We do have mutual aid agreements to assist county officials outside of the city limits if requested. Again, I don't know any of the details, and frankly, since it's an ongoing investigation, and as a city attorney, I'm not going to request any details until they're provided. But I can tell you there are times when City of Floresville police officers can operate outside of our municipal boundaries. Again, without knowing the specifics, I can't say whether this was authorized or not during this meeting.
Okay, and last question, city manager. Were you aware of any activity of city police officers outside the city limits?
The lieutenant actually, I'm sorry. The lieutenant briefed me very briefly, just generality. I have no more detail than what he shared with today, that he said he would bring me up to date with what's happening, but other than that, I have nothing to share.
Are you through, Mr. Miller, with this one?
Obviously, I'm not going to get any answers, so I guess I am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. The next item, conditions when members of the city council are required to recuse themselves from voting. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're all aware of conflicts of interest and business perspectives, et cetera, where individual council members should have to publicly recuse themselves from the vote. I'm going to be real specific here so that we're not dancing around the bush. When it comes to the issue of a recall that clearly identifies Mayor Castillo, Councilman Tejada, and Councilman Ortiz, their vote could completely sway this one way or the other. But because this directly impacts them, should they ethically and legally recuse themselves from any vote on a recall election?
The answer to that is no. The courts of appeals, Duffy v. Branch, 828 Southwest 2nd, 211, the judge there specifically stated that the individuals who were on city council subject to recall had to vote for their own recall, thus indicating they weren't to recuse themselves, they were to participate in the vote and follow the rules according to the charter of that city.
Okay, help me out here. So if they voluntarily recuse, they would be violating the law?
If they chose to voluntarily abstain, no, but there's no requirement that they forcibly recuse themselves.
Oh, okay. So if they said, okay, well, I'm not going to vote on this because this directly impacts me and I want to show the people that I'm going to leave this up to the will of the people, okay, and recuse themselves, they could.
That's a personal choice, so long as there's a quorum present, then that would be the case.
Very well, thank you.
Mr. Attorney, in that same conversation, since the gentleman to my far left has been disqualified, has been deemed not qualified to represent the city of Floresville, can he continue to vote?
Yes, sir.
Deemed by two bodies, deemed by this city council, and deemed by an administrative and district judge.
Judge people deem that Councilman Miller is in what we call a holdover position, and so he's entitled to the duties of his office until a replacement is seated.
Please tell the audience to when, Mayor?
Until the replacement is seated, which would be technically the canvass following the May election.
Could you remind us why there's a holdover position?
It's because of the actions of the city council in determining a council member did not have the qualifications of residence. And I will point out, we're getting a little off of the topic.
Oh, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Councilman Miller, the next item, were we through that one?
Yeah, sure.
The next item, can we tie that one to the CNA on presentation and acceptance of the recall petition?
If you'd like to
Under
move
new
that,
business?
if you'd like to move that new business item up, absolutely.
She said 4K. 4K?
Yes. Well, actually, it's not, it's 4I. On presentation and acceptance of the recall petition by the city secretary. And you're asking to validate them, and that's what she's gonna be doing under I.
No, I asked, the agenda item is a report from the city secretary on the validation.
It says CNA on presentation and acceptance of the recall petition.
Madam Mayor, I would recommend that we go ahead and combine 3H and 4I and go ahead and do it now.
Well, would like to do it under new business. If that's okay.
That's the last presentation item where we did item 4A out of order. We can jump to 4I.
Mr. Hodges, what is your recommendation?
That's a decision for the presiding officer to decide. If we do move up 4I, I would also recommend moving J and K just to kind of keep everything free. But it's Councilman Miller's item, so if he doesn't want to move it down.
Well, so perhaps we ought to go ahead and do just H by itself. Okay? Go ahead and report.
Okay, Mayor, I just had, as I provided to council, city secretary's affidavit. The petition consisted of 78 pages purporting to contain the signatures of 581 legal voters. It was found that 53 petitioners do not meet this requirement, and it was found that 6 petitioners had their voter registration marked in suspense, which leaves, if you look at the back of your chart, 522 valid voters, signatures, valid signatures on the petition.
So, Councilman, this makes it a valid petition in accordance with the charter of the city of Floresville.
Yes, sir, it meets the 500 signature threshold contained in the city charter.
Okay. Question the need for acceptance of the petition by the city council. As I read the charter, it's simply presented to the council. It doesn't have to be accepted by the council. Why are we voting if we're going to accept the petition?
It's just the wording on there, use the word acceptance. We could have left it out, but it's a CNA, it's a mandamusable action where it has to be accepted because it meets the 500 voter threshold. So just to have a record vote on the acceptance of the petition.
Thank you.
I'm a little confused.
Can we address that when we get to that item?
Very well, madam.
Thank you. Then we'll go into new business. We've already done A, we'll go to B. CNA to approve a request to move in a manufactured home, 726 First Street. Community Development Director.
Mindy Riley, Community Development Director. Good evening, Mayor, council members. The first agenda item I have is a manufactured home to be moved into the location of 726 First Street. The city staff has reviewed it, and it's gone before P&Z January 20th, and it was passed with a vote to recommended for city council to approve. It meets all the requirements and has over 2 acres of land.
Discussion from council.
We have as I look at this document, there is a disagreement.
There was one disagreement, yes.
How does that impact this, council? I mean, what's the normal process here? If somebody objects to it,
That's just to have on record, and it's for the council to consider the objections on there if they want to take those into account.
Any other discussion?
I so move to approve item 4B.
There's a motion on 4B. May I have a second?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Comments from the audience? Please step up to the podium. No comments? All right, all those in favor to approve the request to move in a manufactured home on 726 First Street, raise your right hand. Madam Secretary, did you see all the,
And we have 2 abstaining.
all those opposed?
no, I oppose.
Or you're opposed?
One opposed?
One opposed, and
We're all in, up on this side.
211.
211, Mayor. I couldn't
Okay,
see.
motion
Who
carries.
abstained?
Councilman Tahada, I believe.
I can't vote, this is a first cousin of mine, so I'm not gonna vote on this.
Madam Secretary, did you get that? Motion carries. Okay.
And for those in the audience, putting a comment disagreeing, saying that this will make our neighborhood look more trashy is not a valid complaint.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
The next item, thank you. CNA to approve a variance requested by Chris Salamantes for 1305 and 1307 Longhorn Drive.
Yes, this is one lot that's being subdivided into two. The frontage does not meet our ordinance 153.031. City staff and P&Z are recommending approval. It is going to be new family homes, they're single-family built homes on those two lots.
Council, is there any discussion?
What's the delta and how much of a variance is it?
It's a 75-foot frontage, and it's going from 75, the variance is 63.40. Roughly about 11 feet.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll
May I have a second? Motion and a second. Audience comments? None? All those in favor? Raise your right hand. All those opposed? Madam Secretary?
4-0, Mayor.
4-0, motion carries. Next item, CNA to approve a variance requested by Ben Reed for 801 F Street.
Again, this is another variance request. It is short the 75-foot frontage requirement by 2.5 feet. Staff and P&Z is recommending approval.
Discussion? Council?
So move, Madam Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any citizen comments? No comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Madam Secretary?
4-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, CNA to approve a variance requested by Erica Lopez for 1206 and a half South 2nd Street.
Yes, this is another variance request. It does not meet the 75-foot frontage. It's short by 25 feet, and we did consider this, not for a recommendation, but due to the fact that they are taking a 1996 mobile home out and replacing it with a brand new 2016, we felt like this should be approved, and P&Z also approved it.
Discussion?
What are the long-term implications of this if they said since we're approving the variance of 25 feet and they want to build a home there or put in a business there later, is that variance have to be reevaluated?
To meet the setback requirements, yes.
Any other discussion?
I so move, Madam Mayor.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Citizen comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please step up to the podium?
Are all the utilities being involved in easements? Are all the easement requirements?
Yes, the setback requirements are being met. It's just a 75-foot frontage. It's not met.
Thank you. Any other citizen comment? All right, all those in favor? Raise your right hand. All those opposed? Madam Secretary?
4-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion carries. C and A to approve rezoning 1503 and 1505 3rd Street from residential to business.
Mr. Joe Harrison has approached the city for rezoning request, very close to City Hall over here on the corner, from residential to business for some office buildings with no intent to build at this time, maybe to market at a later date. Staff and P&Z both recommend approval.
So move, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So move.
So moved. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Citizen comment? All those in favor? All those opposed? Madam Secretary?
4-0.
Thank you, motion carries. CNA to approve a variance requested by Frank Avero for 1511 8th Street. Discussion?
This also is a variance request. Mr. Guerrero and his family have come to us. Their home was destroyed by the tornado that hit Floresville. Out of all of the variance requests, his is the smallest, but due to the fact that we believe that this is a true hardship, they had to pay off the loan to their home before they could tear it down because it was not livable. They got the money from the insurance to buy a mobile home. It's only 6,000 square feet, but it is a 2014 model. So we are recommending approval due to, this is a true hardship because of the tornado that hit Floresville.
Council discussion?
So move, Madam Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Citizen comments? All those in favor? Raise your right hand. All those opposed? Madam Secretary?
4-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item H, CNA to adopt ordinance 2016-003, amending section 150.47D to 6 of the city's code of ordinances to change the to change the insurance requirements for contractors' licenses to operate in the city of Floresville. I have had several inquiries regarding the insurance requirements by small contractors, and it is very difficult for them to keep up the premiums or to pay the premiums for $500,000 to $1 million requirements. And I don't have the history on this as to why this was approved, but it is a hardship for the small contractors. And the item is under H, the recommended contract change versus the adopted contract. We have several small contractors in the city, and they cannot compete with the high rates. When typically they will do repair jobs most of the time, not complete housing.
And council, you'll find in your packet a drafted amendment. The amount on there is what blank, figure we leave that up for council discussion to
Right.
determine at tonight's meeting.
Exactly. I'm just making my point. Thank you. Any discussion?
Do you have a recommendation, Madam Mayor, on the amount?
The recommendation would be, for individuals, 100,000 to 500,000 for residential. Is that what we talked about?
Right now, it's listed in there as 500,000 for individual and $1 million for the residential. So if it goes down to 100,000, usually the second is double, so it'd be up to the 200,000.
Is our development director still here? What is our recommendation?
Is she gone? Oh, okay.
I have not received any complaints against this, and I have over 100 contractors registered in the city since the first amendment, ordinance passed.
Well, I've received several, and as a matter of fact, I'm not sure if anyone else has here, but they're not able to pay the premiums for these large amounts.
Madam
I
Mayor,
have not had any complaints.
I have one comment, one question. I, as a business owner, have to have $1 million worth of liability insurance. As I look across the room, there are a number of business owners in here that have to have $1 million worth of liability. And if somebody comes into my business or in my home and does damages that hurts one of my members of my family because of their neglect, I would hope that they would have that type of insurance. So I'm opposed to changing this because I remember when that city staff came up with this recommendation to council for the amounts of liability coverage as a standard, to simply reduce the amount because it's a hardship to the business owner is, I think, poor leadership by this council in protecting the citizens of our community. My question is, city manager, do you have any comment or recommendation on this?
This ordinance was brought before the council, I believe, back in August of 2015. We did do some research in reference to do that, but on this amount, we relied on the attorney's recommendation, and he recommended that dollar amount for the insurance purposes. I just wanted to make sure that you understand, this is not a special insurance they get just for the city of Floresville. This is an insurance that they have to operate businesses. So we just need to have a copy of it, and this ordinance allows us to require that so that we can have it on file. So if someone gives you a permit that they have to have, can require a copy to be on file so that we can have proof of insurance. And so that's the purpose of this. But I did check when I saw the mayor requested onto the agenda. I did check with staff. I have not received any complaints. We did count, it's over 100 that we have received to date.
Mrs. Turner, have we had any claims, any incidents of accidents?
We don't know, we haven't had anybody to request it because they may have claimed against the contractor's insurance directly. But in case we have it on file, we can prove that they have insurance. Again, I will reiterate, this insurance is not just specially for the city of Floresville. It's a business that they have to have insurance. So we're just asking them to have proof of insurance and to register that with the city of Floresville. Now, plumbers, I think, are an exception to this.
Yes.
Because they have to have special license according to the state. So they have to have insurance requirements according to what the state says. So we can't encumber on what the state, we can't do what the state requires. But this is an insurance policy that most businesses should have as we allow them to move forward to do work on people's properties.
Madam Mayor, with your permission, can we ask anybody from the audience if they're familiar with, or the contractors, and they can give us an opinion?
Yes.
Actually, just for the record, I held
Would you
a
like to
real-
step up to the podium,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. I have held a real estate license and an insurance license in the state of Texas. $1 million personal liability is nothing. It is nothing. It is the minimum liability required by most businesses. For example, for the Balloon Festival, we require $1 million personal liability of our food vendors. Okay, so it's nothing. There is no organization in the state of Texas, aside from the contractor, that enforces in case of a lawsuit. Even the warranties. People build houses all the time, and the warranties